Thank you for the invitation to commemorate Naomi, who I valued greatly. My involvement with technology has been somewhat spasmodic and not always productive. When I became Education Secretary in 1997, I went across to do a presentation to Tony Blair at Downing Street, and I was supposed to be setting out the proposals in the white paper and the vision of the future that David Putnam will remember in terms of the learning grid and technology. And I opened the folder I'd been given when I got across to Downing Street, and I looked at the braille inside it, and I couldn't read a single word. And so I did what I'm best at. I sort of flanneled my way through, and Tony didn't notice, so that was fine. Sort of started a career of that, really. And I got back to the department, and I said, you know, it went fine, but what on earth went wrong with the braille? I couldn't read a word. And they came back a quarter of an hour later, and they said, Secretary of State, we think we found the problem. I said, what's that? They said, you know the new braille embosser that we bought specially for her? I said, yes. They said, we bought it from Sweden. And they hadn't switched it over. So my first point is it's pretty important to use it well and to know what you're doing and have some literacy. My second experience has been learning to use and to access the web with a synthetic voice. And obviously, I can't use a mouse. As a northerner, I thought when they said that I was going to be using a cursor that it was a foul-mouthed Lancastrian, actually. You're just a bit further north than that. My experience was that we needed to open up for young and old alike in constituencies like mine the opportunity that would automatically come for the better off. It wasn't an argument about whether it was a good idea or not. The idea is out of our hands. The web is uncontrollable by governments. But whether, firstly, we could provide reasonable access, secondly, we could use it well, because that is really important in terms of the learning experience. It's a means to an end, not an end in itself. Thirdly, could we actually ensure that the schools knew what was available and could access what was available well? And fourthly, was there just a chance we might be able to train teachers? I am a trained teacher, so don't boo me, but actually the kids know a lot more about technology than the teachers, and there is a big issue about making sure that we do use it appropriately and well. We weren't sure entirely as ministers what we were doing, which is not unusual. And so therefore we took as much advice as we can, and David might want to comment on that because we took his advice as well. We've come a long way down the road since the learning grid was established over 10 years ago. We've expended an enormous amount of money, but we still have, and this is the really big point I want to make, the danger of the digital divide. We have it between young and old. We have it between those with access and those without. A lot of children in deprived families have games to play, but they don't have access properly back into the school or into the web in a positive way. And a lot of youngsters are not protected by their families from the misuse of technology in terms of accessing inappropriate material. And we do need to protect them as we would with any other material or forum or platform. So there's nothing different about it. It's just more complex and more difficult to deal with. I want to just make the point tonight that I think we can't deal with a digital divide, which will be talked about a little bit by Stephen Carter next week. There'll be a big emphasis on broadband. I hear people talking about their lives being broadbanded nowadays. I don't know what the world's coming to. I think it means that they've got an expansive portfolio. Is that what it means, Alan?
No idea.
Well, DS have just been criticised for very strange language in their report. So that's another part of the technology we need to demystify. And I just want to make this point. If we're going to ensure there isn't a digital divide for children, then we have to avoid the digital divide for their parents and grandparents. If we're going to avoid the digital divide in terms of access into school and material for education, we need to educate the main educators in any early child's life, and that is the parents and grandparents. And that means we've got to link the parents in, not just by saying, would you buy a computer, but by using virtual methodology now, virtual process, to be able to link them into new sources of information across the world and not just in their own community. And if we do that, then we'll avoid another massive fracture of our society and our community, which is those who know, I wasn't going to quote Donald Rumsfeld, but those who know do know, and those who don't know, and those who don't know they don't know. So they don't access what would otherwise be available. And in the end, that is the challenge of our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you.